Hello there, ladies and gentlemen, and welcome to the State of the Empire for turn 61. So it's been very exciting lately, very exciting, but we have a great number of things to go over in this turn here. Well, in this episode, I suppose you could say. And, to be honest, I feel more confident than ever. The reason for that is just the profound amount of people that have been so kind to actually help me out in just learning the game, understanding the game, and it is fantastic. It is awesome to have a little community, and you know what? I really hope it grows. I hope we can be a bit of a little family. But indeed, it's definitely humbling. It is definitely humbling to think that so many people come each week to see what is happening in the game. I mean, THG is a superb opponent, and I really do look forward to the day that we can actually discuss the opening phases of the campaign and just relive a change. That'd be really awesome. But we'll get into this then. So, what is the plan in China then? Now, of course, we do have a number of plans here, but something that's rather important is the fact of Changsha, as you can imagine. But what I want to point out here is the fact that we do have the 8th Armoured Car Company. Now, these guys, let's see. They're on a road, and let's see, it is in fact a major road, I believe it is known as. So they may potentially arrive here tomorrow, ideally. More or less. I do forget, I need to actually note down the distances they can travel on the roads and the different type of roads. You can see we do have major roads, which are the darker red, and we do have the minor roads, which are the lighter red. So you can see that we did make very good progress over here, but as soon as we start to crossing this road, that's when we slowed down, which does make sense due to the actual, I suppose it's the lower quality of the road, really. It's like the difference between driving on like a country road versus driving on like a highway or a motorway, really. You can definitely tell. Okay. The reason why that is important is the fact that this will open this hex side up. Now, the reason why that's important is what we're going to be doing over here in Changsha. I've never... We did attack, obviously. We did have the frontal attack against Changsha. Now, that attack, I can imagine that the Allied forces are going to be saying, oh, ho, he lost so many thousand troops. And it's like, yes, we did lose troops. But the actual lessons that we learned from that is really very important. We learned how strong his defenses are. We've learned that he's actually been fortifying Changsha, which is very interesting. Now, I believe Changsha starts out with level 4 fortification, so he fortified it to level 5, which is interesting. The fact that he's done it once does suggest that he will potentially look to further fortify, so he may be looking towards building the fortifications back up. The reason why this is a good thing, the reason why fortifications are a good thing, even as it costs us men, is the fact that this is the supply expenditure of China increasing as he does this. But also in that, I do feel like he's... I feel like he's overconfident in China. I really do feel like he's definitely underestimated us in China here at this moment in time. The reason why he's confident is the fact that he has this position here, and he feels this position to be strong. I don't imagine he's going to remain at Changsha forever, but the fact that he's been remaining at Changsha for so long, it just works towards our plans here, really. It's definitely a boon, which is very good. But what we're going to be doing here, the reason why I mentioned the 8th Armoured Company and the reason why I mentioned the road being opened up is, what we're going to do here then is, of course, we do have a number of divisions over here. What I will be doing then is obviously assembling them back together, but I'm going to be looking for the divisions that are in the best shape possible, really. I'll also be taking a decent amount of armour, not all of it, but a decent amount of armour, and potentially some artillery as well, but I'm not too bothered about the artillery. The artillery could remain here at Changsha potentially, but I would like to take some perhaps. But the reason for this is what I'm going to do here is we're going to look towards exploiting the flank of Changsha, which is something that can be done, and it would definitely change the situation. Now, I want to point out the fact that we do have the 6th Division and the 4th Brigade over here. The 6th Division will more than likely arrive at Changsha next turn, and the 4th Brigade will arrive just south of Changsha here, most likely. Now, what this is actually a good thing, because if you take a look over here, that's 710 assault value just in these 2 units. What I'm going to do with these 2 units is the fact that the 6th Division is a fresh unit and the 4th Brigade is fresh, is they're going to be tasked with heading down here. So from Changsha, they're going to head down here to Hengyang. Well, just on the outskirts of Hengyang. I was going to choose a better colour here, a little bit easier to see. What I want to do here then is I want to make sure I can block this railroad, so I would look towards moving potentially even the armoured car company just here, just to make sure this road is cut for damn sure. As at the moment, I think he still has access to this road over here, so I would like to make sure it's cut, if at all possible. But the reason why we're going to do that is we're going to leave... I'm going to look to potentially leave... It depends, really. What I'd like to do is slowly but surely pull units out of Changsha and have them head to the south of Hengyang. The reason being, I'd like to get to a point of where we have a pretty decent force there, and we will make the crossing at Hengyang. The reason why we'd make the crossing at Hengyang is so effectively we sever this rail network. Also, we cut, well, we cut this, we force him out of the city, and we're fighting clear terrain. This is probably fortified as well, but the fact is, it is clear terrain. So it's significantly easier than fighting at Changsha. Significantly easier. The first attack will be a shock attack, so I would like to build up a decent amount of force before we do go over. From what we can tell, if we take a look, there's currently 4 units there. Something like 34,000 troops. So I'm going to assume, if we take a look over here then, now we have 3 units over here, that's 39,000 troops. I can only assume that that's probably like 3 corps worth of infantry, perhaps? As you can see, Liu Chao still has 6 units, but only 20,000, so I can imagine that's probably maybe like a corps, and maybe like some other base units or headquarters or something of that nature. But we can kind of get an idea for how strong a corps is. I don't think I've got a single corps on here that I can take a definite look at. But I think these are 3 corps, which would explain the numbers there. So if we take a look over here at Hengyang, I think he's only got 2 corps. So we have 4 units there. In this force over here is 3 units, but it's 39,000, almost 40,000 men, so it's actually stronger than Hengyang. So I think he's only got 2 corps here. Now, the Chinese corps are fairly effective. They're roughly equivalent to like a Japanese division in terms of like raw AV to a degree. But obviously, when it comes down to the table equipment, the terrain and the morale, all the other stuff that makes combat very interesting, they're not really a match. But they can hold us off. But what I'm looking towards doing here then, is we have a 104th Division. What I'm going to look towards doing then is pulling the 6th Division and the 4th Brigade immediately from this area to have them head over here with some armor. I will look towards pulling out additional divisions as well. At the moment at Changsha we have a total of 5,189 assault value. Obviously that is not the true amount, but that is the current amount. After a few days of rest this AV will recover. I think we're recovering about 250 a day or something of that sort of nature. But what I want to do here then is what I'd like is to slowly but surely pull these forces out. As long as we're not launching attacks, he's not going to get an idea of how many troops we have. He will have some detection level over our troops, but ideally none too accurate. Ideally, he doesn't have aerial reconnaissance. He may very well do, but I'm hoping that he doesn't have much. But what I'd like to do here then is begin to slowly pull out to Changsha. And then what we are going to do is look to make the crossing over here at Hengyang and sever the connections here. What I'd like to do, I'm really secrecy and just hoping that he's not noticing is the main part of this. But what we want here is we want to pull AV from Changsha without him knowing to a degree. The reason for that is I can leave I could probably leave 2,000-3,000 assault value at Changsha, and he's not going to kick us out. If he attacked us, that would be to our benefit. We'd gain the terrain advantages. We also do have a few divisions that do have level 1 and level 2 fortifications. But the fact that he'd be using a lot of supply, he would get mulched. He would absolutely lose a lot of casualties. But what we want to do here then, really, is we want to keep him at Changsha as long as possible. Absolutely as long as possible. The reason for that is the longer he stays at Changsha, the better our chances are at basically destroying the Chinese forces in this area. But when I said earlier I don't want a frontline battle at Changsha again, well, I didn't quite say that one. I was alluding to it. We fought a battle here for a reason. The reason was information, really. Obviously to begin to drain supply, but also to just, I suppose, it's one of these things, like, obviously he was looking for casualties, and it seems he's feeling confident because we haven't seen him pull out, which is interesting. So what I'd like to do is take advantage of my opponent's, I suppose, overconfidence. So the longer he stays here, the more force I can build up over here at Hengyang, the better the chance that we have to potentially even trap him in this area. What I'd love to do is just leave a force here, just keep him trapped here as long as we can, really. I'm not particularly interested in destroying Chinese units, because then they would actually reappear over here at Chongqing. So it's an interesting strategy. It's really one of where I want to make him effectively... render him effectively useless. Effectively without power to fight us. But I don't want to destroy him per se. As obviously he would have his men reform over here. So the plan is really... is this flank in action. Now, of course, we do have the ability to land paratroopers over here at Chikiang and over here at Tuyun. Now, these are... it's a very ambitious plan. It is a very ambitious plan. What I'll be thinking about doing here, then, is flying, obviously, the paratroopers in here to take the bases. Ideally, they are unoccupied, as far as we can tell they are. But I'd like to seize the bases. Now, I don't imagine I'd be able to hold them for terribly long. But in those days, it would be worthwhile, in my opinion. More so for the fact of putting the pressure on THG. I think this very much becomes a psychological game to a degree. Is we take those bases on his rear, and I don't know how much he has in his rear, but as far as we can tell, there's not a very large force over here, so it's hard to say what else there is in the area. There is a unit about here, but it didn't look very large. It might have been like a base unit or something like that. So basically, this is very much a psychological operation. The good news is he is continuously helping us as well. He's playing into our hands here without knowing it. And the fact that he's moved potentially 3 calls out from Lu Chao over here is excellent, because that means the additional forces that he had over here that would have been able to potentially march north to Tuyun is reduced. So he's moved potentially 3 calls out this way. He still has forces around the area that he could potentially move. Like, that's probably a call there. Or something of that nature. I think it's a call. Probably a call. But he could look towards moving these forces. The thing is, with this core over here, it probably would be able to reinforce Hengyang. It depends if he knew we were crossing, but he'd probably be able to see it. So he'd probably have another core that could join in here. But so, what we're looking towards doing here, then, is remaining ready to drop with the paratroopers. But ideally, we don't want to provoke him to a degree in China. The longer he stays put, the better. Absolutely accurate on that one. But what I want to do in China as well is, I've really not been paying too much attention to the northern areas of China. The reason why there hasn't been a lot going on here for a while. But what I'm going to be doing then is assembling forces from Shanghai, from Luoyang, I think this is Chengchao. But indeed, we do have forces across the north of China, and what we're going to be doing is we're going to be assembling them. I think I would be assembling them potentially at Changchao. The reasoning being, I think we're going to begin to march upon Danyang, and we do have a couple, maybe about 1,000, 2,000 AV, potentially even more in this area, that we could put together. A good chunk of force. What we need to do here is, this is part of the actual ploy of just trying to keep this area quiet, is I'd like to put pressure on the north, so we will put together another, well, a second army, I suppose you could say, a second army group to attempt to pressure the north. But that and the fact that Nanyang is, well, it's on the road to Xi'an, and Xi'an is a city that we need. It is also something that we need to deprive the Chinese of. As obviously that oil, supply production, all of that good stuff, we need to take that away from him. So it's a very much a evolving situation here, really. We do have the heavy cruisers that will be bombarding over here at Wankao in the next turn. Now what we're going to do here then is basically they're going to bombard at Wankao, proceed to Shanghai, proceed back to bombard, and just keep that up basically. The reason being, I mean, heavy cruisers, we'll see, they're definitely not battleships, but they're still 200mm guns, so they're still fairly effective. But we're just gonna completely level the places we have to bring it down. We have this unit that's being chased over here. Now, in regards to the 38th Division, that's about this, I think it's this unit over here. I am somewhat torn. It would be nice to potentially have it join over here at Hengyang. To, I don't know, maybe not. But it's one of these of, at the moment, it will remain on course for Canton, and obviously on course to head towards Malaya, and the Dutch East Indies, potentially even Burma eventually. But it's a very interesting plan at the moment. So there's a lot of moving parts here in China. But the good news is in China is the fact, well, he's not setting the pace in any regards. He's not pressuring me, I'm the one pressuring him. Which is understandable considering the fact that obviously he does not want to fight offensive actions as such. But we're not going to give him the choice. We're going to up the pressure on him dramatically. And if we're able to, I'm going to look towards flanking him at Changsha. It's not entirely likely. I don't think it's a good chance for it to actually be successful. But if we could actually force a crossing at Hengyang and him leave the majority of his forces at Changsha, then we'd be in a good position there. But even if he does look to actually retreat from Changsha, if we do have our forces at Hengyang, at least we're able to engage him and ideally lock him in place. But, to further expand on over here at Chikiang, what I will be looking towards doing then is obviously dropping the paratroopers on the first turn, and then on the second turn I will fly elements of a second unit in here. This second unit is going to be either heading towards this road over here, or it would begin to head towards the north, but either way it would be heading this way. It might be even worthwhile to have the additional elements or from another unit head for this road over here. Effectively what we'd be doing then is prolonging the time it would take for him to actually clear this area. Because it isn't, it's no joke really. It's something that we can't ultimately hold on to for very long, should he actually commit to sending forces to the area. But the fact that he's having to send forces to the area, the fact that it's going to take them time to dig us out is going to be excellent. Because the thing is, we're going to be fighting in Times 3 terrain if we actually do indeed get into these bases, and indeed they're unoccupied. We'd be having the benefit of the Times 2 and Times 3 terrain. So, it turns like what is effectively 100 AV or something like that, for instance, into like 300 AV, which is a nuisance. It's really hard for him. There's a lot of cogs. I suppose there's a lot of moving gears in China. A lot of them. So I suppose that's currently a breakdown of the thinking in regards to the China matter. I mean, obviously there's a lot more of a nuance there, but I'm just trying to summarize here at the moment. Now, part of the China question is the fact over here at Kotabaru, I do have a Yokosuka Fern SLF. These are paratroopers. These were the guys that did take control of Kuala Lumpur, and I forget the name of it. No, is that typing? I forget the name of it. I think it's like 2 bases further down here that they took control of in a single turn, due to the fact that they dropped. But anyhow, they're currently over here at Kotabaru. What I'm going to do is I'm going to fly them out from Kotabaru to Saigon via transportation aircraft. What is then going to happen after all of them have been transferred over here to Saigon is these aircraft along... Well, the troops are going to be heading this way, up the rail lines, through Indochina, of course, and all the way over here to Lang Song, I do believe is the name of the base. And of course, the transportation aircraft will make it over here as well. What I'm looking towards doing here then is essentially having a second unit of paratroopers available over by here. Now, in regards to Nanning, we're stood down this turn. We do anticipate, I mean, I do anticipate this being 2 or 3 cores. It's probably at least 3 cores. We're not going to attack this turn. We're going to see kind of what happens. We're going to build up our supply and then potentially attack the turn after. The thing is, obviously, if we do take Nanning, it's going to more than likely be attacked by the Chinese. But this is worthwhile. It's going to cost us some casualties over here, but it's worthwhile because it draws the Chinese forces away from here, towards this area here, away from these important areas. And ultimately, this is it's a bit of a sideshow, really. But it is important. And potentially he could take these troops and then head down to Canton, but that's a nightmare for him. This is urban heavy. And maybe he takes these, but that's fine. We could always retake it in the future. It's all about just drawing him away from where he needs to actually be. I believe if Chinese forces do cross the Indo-Chinese border, it does actually give us additional Thai divisions to use. I think it's Indochina and just like all the area. I think it's like each day he spends in here or something like that, or like how many hexes he crosses, and we get additional troops or something of that nature. But it would be a good thing. It would be a very good thing. Okay. So yeah, there's a lot of cogs in motion here. A lot of them. Now, what we're going to do here then is go over Malaya. So over here at Malaya, we do have the 4 divisions. They're currently marching on towards Singapore. Originally, I was going to have the regiments join them as well, but it does make sense. They would be beaten up. Is an argument to be made to have the most AV presence on the first attack, but then again, it would see them completely demolished. I suppose we might as well have them join in afterwards, but it's going to be a bloody, bloody adventure here anyway. But it is necessary. It is entirely necessary. We do need to crush Singapore eventually. And this is just part of the ongoing siege there, really. Elsewhere in Malaya, we obviously are able to now make use of Kuantan. These air bases are being built up with aircraft numbers, i.e. bombers and fighters. Over here at Kuala Lumpur is where we have the air division, which is basically making sure that all these bases can use torpedoes, which is very good. We did just land over here at Singkawang. Now, the good news about Singkawang is the fact that we do have a regiment ashore over here, but we also do have a number of aviation engineers. So Singkawang should more than likely fall next turn to a determined attack. And from there, what we're going to be doing is, well, what I'm going to be looking towards doing is really taking advantage of the situation. Singkawang should have been seized much, much, much earlier, but it is what it is. Currently at the moment, from Johor Bahru, I can fly fighters out at maximum range to escort the G3M2s, the G4M1s, etc. To this area over here at Osthaven, where we did strike lucky by hitting 2 tankers, which was very nice. But those bombers are stood down, these zeros have been transferred north. But what I'm looking forward to doing here then is if we do seize the base at Singkawang, now that does put us within range of this area over here by using Ki-43-1Cs or Ki-43-1Bs, but the 1Cs would be more than likely over here, which is good. So that means that we can actually use the naval bombers and continue to attack over here with escorts. The reason why we've transferred the zeros north is over here at Bangkok. We have a squadron, the 14th Sentai, the Ki-21-2A Sallies, so about 23 of them at the moment. We do have the 1st Sentai, the 59th Sentai, the Tainan KUS-1, which is our zeros. There's also the Yamada Detachment 1 as well, which are just in A5M4s. I'm going to move them probably somewhere else, actually. But what we're doing here, then, is we are assembling a large body, as you can see. And there's a total of 126 ready aircraft. Obviously, this is including the 14 of the A5M4s, so yeah, just deduct 14 from that. But we have a great deal of fighters over here. We have them just running combat air patrol this turn, just basically while the zeros, they've only just transferred over, so they wouldn't really be ready for any offensive action against Rangoon, for example. They probably wouldn't fly. But it's going to give these guys a little bit of rest, give these guys a little bit of rest as well. But what we're going to be doing here then is we will use all this power over here at Bangkok to strike against Rangoon. What we're going to be doing is basically taking the lessons that we've learned from Singapore and applying them over to Rangoon. He does have a very large number of aircraft over there. He has B-17s, he has LB-30s, which are like B-24s, well, like early B-24s or something of that nature. But he has a good deal of air power there. If we take a look, you can see, yeah, 62 fighters, 45 bombers, and 14 auxiliary aircraft there. So what we're going to do here then is the Ki-43-1C is it's pretty okay. It's good, you know what I mean? It is okay. The thing that it lacks in is basically, well, I'm going to show you guys. If we take a look over here then. Right, we look over here then. So its maximum speed is 305 miles per hour, but its cruise speed is 199 miles per hour here. But the maneuverability is very solid. The reason why it's a good aircraft, well, I suppose this is it. It's not the best aircraft, it's not the best fighter, but it's okay. You know what I mean? It's okay. Is the fact that it does have the dual 12.7mm Ho 103 MGs. Now, to point out, the fact that they do have 2 penetration is really, really good. It's not the best. The reason why I'm going to show you why it's not the best is if we take a look at the... Let's see, we'll take a look at the zeros. You can see their speeds aren't too dissimilar. So they work well in tandem, I suppose, on the speed front. But you can see here the 20mm Type 99 cannon. They have 3 penetration. The reason why this is important, the reason why cannons are so very effective, and the reason why the Zero is the best fighter that we have right now, is the fact if the Americans have like an armor of 1, how this works is, for example, if you take a look at these 7.7mm over here, these Type 89 MGs, they have a penetration of 1. So when you're firing these 7.7s against a American aircraft that has armor, so they're hitting, and they're hitting level 1, well, they're hitting rating 1 armor, their rating 1 penetration means they don't do anything. they're not likely going to do a goddamn thing against the aircraft. They might be able to, like, hit fuel lines and hit vulnerable parts of the aircraft, but they're not going to be able to punch through the actual armor as such. Whereas the actual cannons, they have 3 penetration, so they punch through that armor value 1, and then that's like 2 penetration there. And then obviously you have the effect, which is basically the damage, but basically you're gonna cause damage. You're gonna hurt. You're gonna probably shoot that thing down. Which is why penetration and armor and all that is really important. So it's very good that we do have the zeros here, because the KI-43-1Cs, they could give us the actual numerical superiority. And the fact that we have this many fighters over here, I mean, in total we have 161 aircraft at this airbase, 148 already at the moment. Obviously the A5M4 has been, just, I don't know, I might just have them here just for just combat air patrol of the base, but even then they're not so good at that. I might as well just have the KI-27s to do that. I'm going to have the A5M4s transfer elsewhere to just basically train. But the good news is we do have the 22nd Air Flotilla over here, which is just south of Bangkok. It should actually arrive at Bangkok more than likely in the turn to come, I should say, which is very good, because that gives us the torpedo ordnance. It also does give us the additional aviation support and additional support as well. As you can see over here at Bangkok, we do need additional aviation support, so that should probably put us just about on the money. Obviously when I move the A5M4s out as well. But the fact that we'll then have access to torpedoes means I can actually have one of those naval bombers or a new naval bomber squadron transferred from elsewhere, base over here at Bangkok, and basically we can shut down Rangoon's port. Can shut down this entire area, really. The reason why we want to do that is it all plays into the China theatre, really. He has supply that's moving through these roads over here, across the Burma Road and into China. So he's getting about 500 supply each and every turn from this as well. So what we need to do is we need to shut down the road, we need to challenge the road, we need to threaten the road over here in Burma, and over here in China. So that is part of that strategy. Now, in regards to the Dutch East Indies, it's becoming a very interesting situation. For one, I do need to actually reevaluate the positions of these submarines. What I'm going to be doing then is having some submarines really in this position over here, and maybe more so like this, but we need to really take a look at the positioning of these submarines and just reorientate them, readjust them really. It would be excellent if we had naval search out here, because it would effectively make our forces just significantly more effective. We would have no problems, basically, finding targets if we were able to vector the submarines onto them. But in this area over here. So, we have the G401 squadron over here at Kandari, just a single one at the moment. The KI-43-1Bs have been transferred from Kandari to Kopang. We've also transferred the actual air fleet. I think it's an air fleet, let's see. Yes, an advanced transport fleet center. Yes, the 5th Air Division. So what we've done is we've transferred the 5th Air Division over here to Kopang. They're not offloaded yet, but tomorrow or the day after they should be, ideally sooner rather than later. The reason why we've moved them here is the fact that, well, it helps us to shut down the southern end of the Dutch East Indies completely. The Timor Sea is going to become our sea, the Banda Sea is our sea, this area becomes ours. But the benefit that we gain here is the fact that we do have a level 3 port and a level 4 airfield. But if you take a look at the distance from Kopang to Darwin, that's 12 hexes, 11 hexes, 11 hexes, 11, 14, 14, 16. Port Hedland is 17 hexes. Now the G4M1s have a range of about 17 hexes with normal range. Obviously we're just outside of range of Surabaya with that. What we're going to be looking at doing is, I think I've set them to operate at 17 hexes to begin with. Yeah, okay. I will be changing that more than likely in the following turn. The reason being, obviously, we have the KI-43s. We want to make sure that we fly with escorts. But, ideally, we will have access to torpedoes tomorrow. That would be very nice. Everything's just moved in this turn, so it's going to take some time for it to get ready, really. So, in about a day or two, more than likely, we will be able to project torpedo bombers out from here with actual escorts, which means that Darwin is effectively going to be shut down. The fact that we do see actual targets over here is really good as well, because, well, this is it. He doesn't expect us to have aircraft here. Doesn't expect us. He's definitely not going to expect us to have torpedo-capable aircraft at Kopang. I mean, the way to look at it is, look at our initial foray into Kendari. Look how long it took for us to really get set up and get going. But the fact that we did have all this at Kendari means that when we branch out, we are able to branch out significantly faster. And we're able to use that against him and hit him significantly harder as well as a result of that. I will be looking at sending out the APDs or other forces over here to take control of these islands. And our next target, the forces over here at Kopang, what I'm going to be doing with them is effectively assembling a amphibious task force in the next few turns, more than likely. And what we're going to be doing is we're going to be heading out here for Denpasar. The reason why we're going to travel in the Indian Ocean is the fact that I'll be able to really make use of a rearmed, refueled, and reinforced mini Kidapatai. But what we're going to do then is escort the actual amphibious forces over here to Denpasar in the near future. The reason being, it gives us another size 2 port, another size 3 airfield, and I think that is, yeah, it looks to be one of the larger air bases outside of Java itself. And if we take a look at the actual, yeah, as you can see, so blue means basically accessible via sea, ocean, I suppose you could say. So rather than go through the Dutch East Indies, which would be expected, obviously rather than go through this small area over here, where we know he has submarines, where we know he obviously has the aircraft over here, what we're going to do then is look to move out into the Indian Ocean, which is basically, it's like a refuge for us here. He doesn't have as many submarines in this area as far as we know. Like, we know his submarines are operating in this area. I don't think they're operating in this area. Then the fact it allows us to head straight for Denpasar. So ideally we'd be able to arrive, well, ideally we'd be able to time this so we could arrive at night perhaps. That would be nice. I'll move into the area at night and then be there. I would be able to cover this with aircraft from Makassar, but I'd like to be able to cover this with aircraft from the Kidapatai as well, from the mini Kidapatai. The reason why I think something like this is actually good, well, possibility and really essential, is it does put us right on the doorstep of Java there. It gives us a it gives us a base there right on the doorstep. As far as I can tell, there's 19 fighters over here. We did see fighters over here at this base, so potentially he's flying from there as well. I'm not entirely sure. But what I'm going to be looking towards doing then is using the land-based fighters and obviously the fighters of the mini Kidapatai. And basically we're going to be challenging his air supremacy in Java. That's what we'll be doing here. And by taking Denpasar, that gives us a base right on the doorstep of Java. And then we can seriously look at actually securing Java in the near future. But then it would actually give me a base here to cover movements towards Borneo, the southern end of Borneo, which would be very nice. Taking Balikpapan and Samarinda would be very good. So I'm looking forward to that. I do have suspicions that he's flying more aircraft from this area. Of course, there's a number of little bases out here. And if he's got float planes, he can fly them out from any of these bases, really. So what we need to do then is just eliminate all allied bases in the area, take control of all of them, and prevent him from being able to do that. Which would be very good. And this area over here. We've been taking control of all these bases over here. We'll be taking all these in the following turn, which is going to be very nice. I do need to reevaluate my position of the submarines over here by Port Moresby, basically make sure we can cover the most travelled, or most likely route into Port Moresby. The 56th Division is making its way over there. Now, we do also have the 1st Engineering Regiment, but we take a look at the 56th. Okay. So they're 24 miles into their march. Thankfully, it's not that far of a march. It will take them a while to get there, but once they do arrive, that's an entire division to take out Moresby. As far as I can tell, Moresby is... I don't know, I don't buy that there's one unit there. I think there is more than one unit. But if there's only one unit at Port Moresby, a division will be able to break that pretty quickly once they do arrive. The only issue is in this area, is the fact that it's a malaria zone. I mean, this is basically all in a malaria zone, which makes it harder to fight in. We fight best in areas like this, because we aren't taking any additional fatigue and disruption penalties from the malaria zone. So... we'll see. I don't know. I'm not entirely convinced that it's a single unit in Moresby, but we'll see about that. The thing with Moresby as well is that it's jungle. So if we take a look, jungle is ×2 terrain, whereas New May was ×3 terrain. Now that's only one difference, but that makes a tremendous difference there. So let's say that we have 100 AV at Moresby. Rather than being 100, it's 200, but if it was at New May, it'd be 300. So you can imagine that if we have a division here that has 432 AV, he'd rather be facing the 200 AV rather than the 300 AV, basically. But we should be able to defeat him here. It may take some time, but that's fine. What I may look towards doing is, in time, bringing the Kiddipatai down towards this area to potentially support operations against Moresby to make sure that they go through in a timely fashion without undue losses. What I'd like to do is bombard Moresby, really. It would be very nice to bombard it with potentially heavy cruiser or battleship. Battleship would be best. So really what we need in this area. And to be honest, what we need more of just in general and always will throughout the war is more AKEs. As you can see over here at Kashina, at Kopang, we do have Kashina, which is an AKE. She basically allows us to rearm carrier sorties, torpedo, well not torpedoes, carrier sort, well actually no, yeah, torpedoes. Carrier sorties, I think you should be able to rearm torpedoes. I don't know if you need an air headquarters there, but I'm going to say rearm the carriers anyway, which is very good. And we need more of them. We need so very many more of them. it really is just, yeah, we need them. If I take a look at ships under repair, no, auxiliaries. We do have the Atlas Maru and the Shinyubari Maru. These have both been converted to AKEs, but they're going to be available in another 10 days. But the good news is, once I have them available, what I will be looking towards doing is basically always having an AKE, oilers, and just etc. basically behind our main forces. The reason being that, for example, if we were to bombard Moresby, we could have the base at Buna, or take a base in the nearby area, set up the AKEs there, set up the oilers there, and basically keep them fueled up, basically keep them rearmed. And if we bombard, back over here, bombard, so on and so forth, it allows us to turn things around, but being able to rearm is really, really good. And this is why the US is so very powerful, is the fact that they, well, in the future, they will have access to all these support assets, to all these logistical assets, and that is something that we need to try and match now, where we're able to fight him best, basically. Now, in regards to the movements of the MKB, it's something that's rather interesting. So what we're doing over here with the MKB at the moment is, as you can see, the MKB is going to move over here, and then they're going to move over here. And then in the following turn also we'll take a look at what happens. But we know that this is a 9-cruiser force, supposedly. Let's take a look. That's an AM there. Maybe a DD or something like that. We can see the ships that were in Carnarvon look to be heading out of Carnarvon. There's another ship over here to Carnarvon as well. He might have been using those to try and force our bombers to attack these guys rather than the actual real targets. But the good news is we were able to elude the actual cruisers over here. We actually managed to bomb 2 of them as well. Only light damage inflicted, but still there's damage, which is very good. Ideally, we will be able to inflict more damage on him in this turn. But there is a possibility he may catch us if he goes full speed. But while he's moving over there, we're going to be moving out this way. So what we're hoping for is, if he carries on moving straight, we might be able to avoid a ocean interception by moving out of the way, basically. So if we move over here, move over here, if he's heading straight up like this, we're going to be able to escape him. So that's the plan. The only difficulty is the fact that we do have this AMC force over here, which is a pain in the arse. There's 10 ships in here. We did destroy a few of them in the last turn. I mean, it's one of these things. It's nice to be able to destroy ships, but it is a bit of a pain in the arse because these guys are probably going to soak up attacks from the MKB, which is annoying. Would be better to have had them all focused down here. But it is what it is. Ideally, we lose detection over them and we just strike down here, but we'll see. They may get in our path, but we'll see about that. Now, in regards to the actual 9-cruiser task force, to be honest, it's one of these things of where I think THG definitely did make a mistake there. Because he's got 9 cruisers, he could have split them up into 3 groups of 3, and let's say, for example, he went this way, or he went this way, or he went this way. That would be significantly more likely to actually catch the MKB. But we'll see. I don't mind it. I'd rather him do that because it makes it easier for me. But moving on. We do have aid that is actually heading out to link up with the MKB. So if we take a look over here, we do have this task force, which is made up of the Issei, the Hyuga, Takawatago, Nashi, and Ashigara. We also do have another 4 destroyers over here. So this task force, its job is to go ahead and actually link up with the MKB. Alright, I can't, well, obviously, let's set to merge. It's not showing me for some reason, which is irritating. I was hoping it would show me out here. Probably because they're still on port at the moment. But basically, they're going to be heading out, and let's see. They'll be probably around about here in the following turn, and then we could look to meet up maybe in the second turn. But what we're looking towards doing here, then, because I do feel it very likely that he will have the cruisers continue to follow me. That's more than likely going to happen, which I really do want. If we can evade actually contact with the cruisers but keep on bombing them, that means that we could potentially destroy his cruisers out here, which would be just a nice bonus. It would be a real big success there, really. Would be very nice. But there's a chance that he may intercept us. But there's also a chance that we can actually take advantage of him if he does continue to chase us. Not only will we have the G4M1s that are able to strike out here with torpedoes, so I want him to actually, I really want him to move into this area here. If he moves into this area over here, we could potentially annihilate him. But what we want to do is, let's say, for example, well, what we're doing here then is, so we're moving up like this, and let's say he's going to move up like this. So he's going to cut the corner on us basically over here. But what I'd like to do is, if I have the actual reinforcements heading towards the MKB, basically head to where he thinks the MKB is going to be, then we could potentially just crush him. Because then the MKB, obviously, is still running the naval search. And when you have ships on naval reaction, what happens if there's a target detected, then basically these ships will react to it. So if we had them over here and they had reaction at 6, they'd vector on the enemy. They'd head for the enemy, which would be excellent. Because you can imagine, when an Iron Cruiser task force is no joke. But the fact is, if he ran into 2 battleships and 4 heavy cruisers and 4 destroyers, he's not going to come out of that well. And to make it even worse, we've got detection over him, so we could potentially surprise him. Obviously, if he carries do inflict more damage across the cruisers, he's ideally fires. Fires would be essentially brilliant for us. If we can light some fires against him, that'd be fantastic. Because that makes it easier to detect him, and the more detection level you have, the better you fight, which is very good. So yeah, I'm hoping he continues to follow us, because it could potentially lead to a situation where we just annihilate the cruiser force here. And I think that is the cruiser force that did accompany the Hermes. So I feel like he's evacuated his surface forces from the Java Sea. That's more than likely happened, and it's a shame. But I suppose the thing is, we weren't in a position here to enforce the closure of the Osthaven Straits. He might have been able to duck out of this way as well, it's unknown really. But he's more than likely came out of this way. So, it's one of those. They could be potentially a nuisance in the future if we don't neutralize them. So he's given us an opportunity over here where we could potentially neutralize his cruisers that were supposed to be destroyed in the Java Sea. So this is good. It's a very dangerous situation, but it's a very interesting situation. The MKB is a little bit low on fuel, but obviously we will have the ships head out there to meet them, so they could take on fuel there. They will obviously head for Kopang where they can refuel, as we do have an oiler moving into the area as well, because Kokuyo Maru, she's moving there with 7,000 units of fuel, which is excellent news. So it's feeling very positive in this area. It's exciting. We do, I don't know. We are in a position of danger here. I mean, we're 5 hexes out from the enemy task force, 4 from this one, and 7 from this one. So he's still got some ground to cover there, but we're hoping that we can get out of the area. We'll get out of the way of him if he moves in a straight fashion, and just really punish him for it, really. But it's going to be one of those where we'll see what happens. Now, moving on over here, we did see an allied task force around about this area here. And to be honest, previously we were seeing him directly head towards Auckland, but I think that's changed. We've not seen anything in this area for a long while now. As such, we do see him skirting down the coastline. I think what he might be doing is, he might be heading south and then heading up and then heading into Auckland. But I think what's more likely is, if we take a look in the area. So if we take a look over here at Pago Pago. Now, if I take the submarine over here, for example, I will set Pago Pago. And set, let's see, Auckland. Okay, so this was the path that he was previously taken. Now, what I think he might be doing is potentially, let's see. I mean, this is probably, I should have been using set destination. I use set destination, but it doesn't particularly matter. The point I can make here is one I can draw anyway. But let's say, for example, he's got the transports heading that way. In a nutshell, I think he's changing his shipping lanes, and I think we need to react to that. So what I'm thinking he's doing is he's heading down this way, and then he might be heading further south, and he might be using Wellington. I don't know anything about Wellington, which is why I'm moving the submarine over here, just to try and, I don't know. It's more so just to see if there's anything in the area, really. So I think he's using Wellington. I don't know, more than likely, but ideally we find something out with the submarine there. We are going to be moving additional submarines, but basically what I'm going to be doing is looking to run submarines along this path. And we need to identify the other shipping lanes, but I think this path is most likely the way he's coming in now. At least the cargo. But yeah, that's something that we're going to be addressing here. It is reasonable to assume that he is moving tankers this way. I think what he's probably doing then is, I reckon the tankers that were in the Dutch East Indies, we know they've been heading down to Perth, so I bet what they've been doing, and I bet what he's been doing, is if we take a look. So I reckon he's been moving down here to Perth. Obviously he can't do that now, or he can't do it as easily. So I think what he might be doing then is moving below Australia and around here maybe, with that fuel. But then, I don't know, it depends really. He might be then moving to New Zealand, moving back, I don't know. That would be a stupidly long path to take. But I think he's moving, I don't know, he's probably moving something along the south. It's hard to say. But I reckon what he might be doing is using the American tankers, moving obviously to New Zealand, and then he might be moving onwards towards like Brisbane and this area, Melbourne, just this sort of area around here really. Obviously Brisbane's over here, Sydney down here, Melbourne down here. And then maybe this way, but I doubt that. So what I kind of think is, he's got the Dutch East Indies tankers moving this way, and then they might be moving fuel down here to Darwin, not Darwin, Darwin's over here, to Melbourne, Sydney, Brisbane area. And then I reckon what he's doing is moving the tankers from the US this way. So we need to look towards cutting this here, really. If I can have submarines like watching this area, that'd be excellent. Now, to actually touch on this area in general, we've been discussing it a lot in the actual episodes in the last few streams. Do we think the American carriers are headed for New Zealand? Or are they at New Zealand already? I don't know. I don't know where they are. We don't know where they are. We are able to work it out to a degree. The last time we saw the carriers was something like 20 days ago or 20 plus days ago. So he can't go that far in that sort of time frame. Now, I've talked about this a lot in a few streams, so I'm just going to like condense this one. My personal bet is he's at Pearl Harbor. That's my personal bet. I think he's at Pearl Harbor. I think it would be a mistake for him to go to New Zealand. But my personal bet is he's at New Zealand. He's at Pearl Harbor. I don't think he would go to New Zealand. I know he's an aggressive-minded player to a degree, but I think when it comes to his carriers, he's too cautious. Well, he plays very cautiously, which is good. Obviously, you should. But I don't know. It's one of those things people keep mentioning, and it's like the more I talk about it, the more I want it to happen, you know what I mean? It's like, if he does head to New Zealand, it really is something of a dream for us. Because if he's at New Zealand, then a lot of other things become significantly... It just becomes easy for us in a way. We have been discussing these, like, what-if plans. What if he's actually at New Zealand? I mean, this is basically just, like, fort exercises, which are always really good to do, really. Just because at the end of the day, this is what war planning is all about, really. Is like having a question in mind and then like, okay, well, how would you react to it? But the ideas that we have in mind at the moment is, if he's at New Zealand and we have a way to confirm that, then I'm going to leave him there. I don't want to provoke him down there, to be honest. The only reason we'd consider provoking him is something I'll explain in the next few minutes, really. But what we'd look towards doing then is having the light carrier Shoho actually assembled into a task force. And to be honest, what I might consider as well is taking potentially the other 2 CVLs, or at least the actual CVs from MKB, that do have a decent number of torpedo sorters and just sorters in general. And then what we'd be looking towards doing then is really having the Shoho or maybe a task force of like carriers really just run rampant in this area here. That would be excellent. As obviously, if these carriers are here, it's going to take him a long time to head over here. Way too long. And the fact is, if he's heading this way, then we'd be ideally able to pick up on it and potentially even able to fight a battle. But I'm going to touch upon the actual scenario. I mean, this is a completely hypothetical scenario. I think he's just sitting pretty at Pearl Harbor, to be honest. I just can't see a situation of why he would want to go to New Zealand. I mean, I'd love him to go to New Zealand because it's almost like surrendering the initiative to us, really. But I don't think he's at New Zealand. I genuinely... Like, I'm gonna say... Oh... I've been up and down the percentages. But at the moment, I'm gonna say it's a strong 80% chances at Pearl Harbor. And I'm gonna say there's always a chance that he could do something different to what I'd expect. After all, this is a game of, I suppose, of mind, really, isn't it? It's like, I don't know my opponent. Does he know me? Do I know myself? You know what I mean? It's one of these things, really. And so I'm going to say that if there's a chance, there's a small chance he heads to New Zealand. I think it'd be personally ridiculous if he did. And I just can't see it. I just can't see it happening because it's just the wrong choice. I don't know why he would. I don't think he would go for it. I just don't think he would go for it because I don't know what he could gain from it. Sure, he could raid us in New Caledonia and just in the Coral Sea, which is potentially dangerous, don't get me wrong, but the thing is it's far easier for me to actually react to that by having land-based aircraft in place and just obviously being able to have the Kidappatai potentially... I don't know, I just don't think he's going to do it. I don't think he'd raid anything deep. So I don't think he has enough information. I don't think he's brave enough to risk it. So... I don't think he's going to be here. I'm going to say that I'm going to put my honor on the line, and I'm going to say he's not heading to New Zealand, in my opinion. I just think it would be useless. I just think it'd be the wrong choice. But for example, if we were to actually pick a fight, let's say that there are USN carriers down here, we're not going to pick a fight immediately. What we would be looking towards doing then is looking... I mean, we will be taking control of these islands here shortly. But what we'd be looking towards doing then is like looking to provoke him. So potentially taking islands like this and just in this area. But this is where the AKEs come in handy because we'd look to park an AKE maybe on one of these islands in the area. We'd look to stay within range of the level bombers at Luganville and the actual fighters at Luganville. So this is it. But we wouldn't engage him with the carriers unless we had a controlled battle space, I suppose you could say. So basically, we obviously want to have the H6K4s established over here at Noumea, for the footy and just in these general areas. But the area engagement that I'd be looking to draw him into would be something like this, really. So like 12 hexes out from Luganville. I'd like to have an AKE, and we would not really engage him without these. Or at least would not be very likely to attempt to initiate battle without those things in place. The reason being, I don't know, we could even potentially provoke him by attacking Norfolk, and I don't know, I think he's probably got some stuff over here at Norfolk. We did see him actually respond. He's probably still got some destroyers and cruisers in the area, but I think we could potentially provoke him by going for Norfolk. So maybe we'd look as if we were attempted to land there and then turn around, potentially draw him or something of that nature. A little bit hard to say. But what we'd look towards doing is try and figure out... I mean, this is it. It's like, I don't know where he could be. Like, I don't know. Let's say he's at Auckland or something like that. So let's say if he's heading to Norfolk Island, we'd want to put submarines just along this path over here. And, like, draw him into the submarines, really. Draw him towards the Luganville. So it's one of these. I'm not going to go overly elaborate into that sort of plan of action because I just don't think it's likely. I mean, he could do it, so I'm gonna say there's a 1 in 5 chance he heads down here. It's just, I just can't see why. You know what I mean? I just can't. It just screams wrong at me. It just screams as like strategically, well, not strategic, operationally, just throwing the initiative away and giving it to us. But it's one of these. It's like if he's at New Zealand, then. Hell yeah. You know what I mean? It's like, hell yeah, that'd be great. That would be fantastic. Because the thing is, it's like at New Zealand, let's say, well, then it's like, well, what are you going to do now? What are you going to do now, son? What is he going to gain? Like, is he going to raid Noumea? I don't know. It's one of these. It's like, it's an interesting question. But I think what we're going to be doing in this area is we are going to be looking to secure these islands, and we're going to look to really continue the conquest in this area as much as we can. The reason being, I want to really, I don't know. At the moment, he's obviously worked out the fact, well, he can imagine the fact his our attention is on the Dutch East Indies. And obviously the conquest in the South Pacific has significantly, well, it's just stopped. We conquered Noumea, but we haven't launched any other invasions, really. Obviously barring, like, New Guinea, but he's not going to be able to do much about New Guinea. But what we want to do is we want to begin to take some Pacific Islands again, which would be very good. I mean, I'm not too keen to do it, unless we know where his carriers are. But if we know where his carriers are, then we definitely do that. But we can take these islands over here, potentially other islands in the area. I mean, we could maybe even take these islands, but I'd love to, absolutely love to get some engineers over here at Savai. And I find it amusing at Savai because it's like, if it was me, I would have bombed that base to hell a long time ago. Because all he's doing there is just giving me a base and letting me keep that base, because that's like level 1 port, level 1 airfield. Bomb the living hell out of that airfield. Like, there's no reason why he wouldn't do that, because all he's doing is giving me the opportunity to actually to use it. Really? What do you... Sorry, there's a lot of stuff there. There's some other little things here to discuss, but that's like the main portion of what's going on, I suppose you could call it, really. I don't want to go on like too much longer. I think I need to try and keep these somewhat condensed, which is hard for me because I'm used to talking forever. But yes. So yeah, we're going to call it here. Looking very much forward to seeing Turn 62, and I hope you guys are as well. And of course, if you do enjoy my content, please do consider becoming a patron. It really does help me out. It makes a significant amount of difference. I can tell you that one. But of course, if you do enjoy my content, please do help the channel to grow by sharing, subscribing, and clicking that bell icon so you're always informed when I'm going live or have a video up. It really does help me out. And of course, subscribe here on YouTube at XTRG and follow my Twitch channel at XTRG. That is where I do stream these, so you can actually see it live and participate there. And of course, do go ahead and join the Discord. Thank you very much, guys, and I shall see you in the future. So, Tenno Haka Banzai for the Emperor. Goodbye for now.